shocking black actor deaths. Then and now, 2025. Death doesn't wait for fame, fortune, or talent, and some of the most gifted black actors left this world in ways more shocking than anyone could imagine. From sudden accidents to violent endings and silent battles with illness, these stories will leave you shaken. Behind the red carpets and flashing lights were lives filled with triumph and tragedy, now frozen in time. Stay with us as we uncover the most shocking black actor deaths that still haunt Hollywood. But before we dive in, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence so you won't miss what's next. Erica Ash. When the news broke on July 29, 2024, that Erica Ash had passed away at only 46, fans across the globe felt a collective heartbreak. Erica wasn't just another actress or comedian, she was a rare talent who could slide seamlessly between laughter and tears, between parody and powerful drama. Her death after a private battle with cancer shocked not only the entertainment industry, but also those who had grown up watching her craft characters that felt alive, authentic, and unforgettable. Born September 19, 1977 in Florida, Erica started her creative journey far from the spotlight. Initially working as a model, she soon realized her true calling was performance. That discovery brought her to the world of comedy and acting, where her natural charisma quickly set her apart. Audiences first came to know her through Mad TV, where she became a breakout star thanks to her uncanny impressions and quick comedic instincts. Her sketches often had viewers laughing so hard their sides hurt, and it was clear she possessed a once-in-a-generation ability to command the screen. But Erica Ash refused to be limited to comedy alone. Her dramatic roles showed just as much depth and skill. In Survivor's Remorse, she played Mary Charles, affectionately called M. Chuck, a bold and fiercely loyal sister navigating family identity and personal struggles. Critics praised her for bringing layers of humor, strength, and vulnerability to a character that could have easily been one-dimensional. Similarly, her work in Contempt revealed her ability to anchor a series as a strong public defender, balancing intensity with compassion. She could carry a courtroom drama as convincingly as she could carry a sketch comedy. Her versatility extended further in Real Husbands of Hollywood, where she played Kevin Hart's wife. The comedic chemistry between her and Hart added to the show's charm and gave audiences a chance to see her brilliance in a different light. Whether she was cracking jokes, commanding dramatic monologues, or simply being herself in interviews, Erica radiated authenticity. She wasn't pretending to be relatable, she simply was. One of the most striking aspects of Erica's life was how she chose to handle her illness. Unlike many celebrities, she kept her cancer diagnosis private. Only after her passing did the public learn of her battle, a testament to her desire to protect her family and maintain dignity in the face of adversity. For many, this added an even deeper layer of respect. She lived her life on her own terms and faced her death with the same grace. Fans quickly flooded social media with tributes, remembering her not just as a star, but as a person who gave them joy, laughter, and strength during their own difficult times. Her co-stars, including Kevin Hart, shared stories about her kindness, professionalism, and unshakable spirit on set. For many, she wasn't just a colleague, she was family. Even after her passing, Erica Ash continues to inspire. Her career is a reminder that black actresses can break molds, defy typecasting, and prove that talent knows no boundaries. She paved a path for future generations to embrace both comedy and drama without fear of being pigeonholed. And while her time on Earth was painfully short, the mark she left is permanent. Erica's story is both a celebration and a tragedy. A celebration of a life that showed immense promise and delivered unforgettable performances, and a tragedy because of how soon it ended. For fans and the entertainment world, she will forever remain a symbol of laughter, resilience, and courage. Chance Perdomo. When the world learned that Chance Perdomo had died in a motorcycle accident on March 29, 2024, the grief felt almost unbearable. He was only 27 years old, a brilliant actor who had only just begun to show the full extent of his talent. His death came like a thunderclap, snatching away a future that seemed destined for greatness. Born on October 19, 1996 in Los Angeles, California, Chance was raised in Southampton, England after his family relocated during his childhood. This unique cultural blend gave him an unusual presence. He carried the smooth confidence of an American performer, but also the refined elegance often associated with British actors. It was an irresistible combination that made him stand out in auditions and eventually on screen. His early work showed hints of what was to come, but it was in 2018 that Chance made his first major impression with the BBC drama Killed by My Debt. The film was based on a true story about the devastating impact of payday loans on young people in Britain. Playing Jerome Rogers, Chance delivered a gut-wrenching performance that was both vulnerable and powerful. Critics praised his ability to embody the quiet desperation of a young man trapped in a system beyond his control. For many viewers, it was their first glimpse of an actor who could break hearts with a single glance. That breakthrough soon led to his most iconic role, Ambrose Spellman, in Netflix's chilling adventures of Sabrina. Ambrose was a centuries-old warlock confined under house arrest, and in the hands of a lesser actor, the character might have been forgettable. But Chance brought him to life with wit, charm, and just the right amount of mischief. His fluid mix of wisdom and playfulness made Ambrose one of the most beloved characters on the show. Fans quickly fell in love with his mysterious aura and the warmth he brought to Sabrina's chaotic world. When Sabrina ended, Chance transitioned effortlessly into another high-profile project, Gen V, the spin-off of Amazon's hit series, The Boys. He played Andre Anderson, a young superhero with magnetic powers who wrestled not only with his abilities, but also with the crushing expectations of family legacy. In a show packed with larger-than-life characters, Chance stood out. Reviewers often singled out his nuanced performance as one of the show's highlights, proof that he was becoming a force in Hollywood. Then, just as his career seemed ready to explode, tragedy struck. On that fateful March day in Los Angeles, Chance lost control of his motorcycle and was fatally injured. Reports confirmed that he had been passionate about riding, enjoying the freedom it gave him. Yet that very passion cost him his life. His castmates, colleagues, and fans around the world poured out tributes, struggling to comprehend how someone so vibrant could be gone in an instant. The loss of Chance Perdomo is not just about what was, but about what could have been. Hollywood has lost many stars too soon. But with Chance, the wound feels especially raw, because his story was only just beginning. He had the look, the charisma, the skill, and above all, the ability to make characters unforgettable. Industry insiders spoke openly about his potential to become a global star, perhaps even one of the defining actors of his generation. His name is remembered with both sorrow and admiration. He symbolizes the fragility of life and the cruel unpredictability of fate. Chance Perdomo's legacy, though short, shines brightly. His performances remain his impact undeniable, and his memory cherished by those who believed in his promise. His career may have been tragically brief, but the brilliance he displayed will ensure he is never forgotten. Chino XL. When news surfaced on July 28, 2024, that Chino XL had been found dead at age 55, the hip-hop and entertainment communities were shaken to their core. Known offstage as Derek Keith Barbosa, Chino XL had spent his career carving out a reputation as one of the most technically gifted lyricists in rap. His shocking death by suicide served as a grim reminder that even the most confident voices can hide unimaginable pain. Born July 25, 1968 in the Bronx, New York, Chino grew up immersed in hip-hop culture during its formative years. His Puerto Rican and African-American heritage deeply influenced his identity and artistry, giving him a unique cultural perspective that would shape his writing. While many rappers chased radio-friendly hooks and club anthems, Chino stood apart as a wordsmith, a cerebral rapper who demanded his listeners pay attention. His debut album, Here to Save You All, 1996, introduced audiences to his razor-sharp wordplay, dense metaphors, and fearless attitude. Songs like No Complex revealed his willingness to explore dark and personal themes, while Creep showcased his ability to fuse storytelling with raw emotion. Hip-hop heads admired his lyrical complexity, even if mainstream recognition sometimes eluded him. He wasn't making disposable hits, he was building a catalog of art that spoke to the depth of human experience. One of the defining elements of Chino's career was his infamous feud with Tupac Shakur. Their lyrical exchanges became legendary, with both men firing shots at each other in tracks that have since become part of hip-hop folklore. While beefs in rap often escalate into dangerous territory, Chino earned a measure of respect even from his opponents for his ability to hold his own against one of rap's most ferocious voices. The fact that Tupac acknowledged him at all was proof of Chino's standing in the culture. Beyond music, Chino also ventured into acting. He appeared in films such as Fight Club and television shows like CSI Miami, adding another dimension to his career. His versatility proved he wasn't confined to the recording booth, he could translate his intensity onto the screen as well. Yet despite these ventures, his heart always belonged to hip-hop, where he remained an underground legend revered by purists. As the years passed, Chino continued to release music, collaborate with other artists, and perform live shows. His reputation as a lyricist never waned, but behind the bars and bravado, he faced struggles few could see. Mental health in the hip-hop community has often been stigmatized, and Chino's death highlighted how silent battles can rage even when outward appearances suggest stability. Do you think the hip-hop industry does enough to support artists' mental health, or are too many left to fight their demons alone? The circumstances of his death-suicide by hanging shattered those who admired him. It was especially jarring because publicly he still seemed active and professionally engaged. The contradiction between his creative output and personal despair left fans grappling with uncomfortable questions. How many more artists are silently struggling? How many mask their pain with art? Tributes poured in across social media. Fellow rappers, collaborators, and longtime fans honored him not only for his music, but for his intellect resilience and the impact he had on their own journeys. For many, Chino XL was a reminder that rap could be poetic, challenging, and profound. He proved that lyricism still mattered even in an era when commercial trends often overshadowed artistry. Chino XL's death was both a loss and a lesson. It underscored the importance of addressing mental health openly and without shame, while also preserving the legacy of an artist who never compromised his voice. His words remain etched into hip-hop history, immortalizing him as more than just another rapper. He was a craftsman of language, a fighter through rhyme, and ultimately a human being whose struggles were as real as his talent was immense. Mandisa. On April 18, 2024, the Christian music world was stunned to learn that Mandisa Lynn Hundley, known simply as Mandisa, had been found dead in her Nashville home. At only 47 years old, the Grammy-winning singer's sudden passing left fans, fellow artists, and the faith community reeling. For nearly 2 decades, Mandisa had been a beacon of hope, encouragement, and joy, and her death was felt like the dimming of a radiant light. Born October 2, 1976, in Citrus Heights, California, Mandisa grew up surrounded by music. Singing in church choirs gave her both confidence and a spiritual foundation that never left her. After high school, she pursued vocal performance at American River College before transferring to Fisk University in Nashville, a historic institution with deep ties to gospel and African American music. Those years sharpened her voice and gave her the courage to step onto the biggest stages. Her big break came in 2006 during Season 5 of American Idol. Though she placed 9th, her powerful performances earned her millions of admirers. Mandisa quickly became known for her rich, soaring vocals and her resilience in the face of harsh criticism. When Simon Cowell made cruel remarks about her weight, she confronted him with grace, forgiveness, and strength, instantly becoming a role model for anyone who had ever felt judged or marginalized. That moment defined her not just as a singer, but as a person of unshakable faith. After Idol, Mandisa launched a recording career that took her far beyond what many expected. Her debut album, True Beauty 2007, debuted at #1 on Billboard's Christian Albums chart. Over the next decade, she released hit records like Freedom 2009, What If We Were Real 2011, and Out of the Dark 2017. Her music often dealt with themes of overcoming pain, battling self-doubt, and holding on to hope in dark times. Her 2013 album, Overcomer, won the Grammy Award for Best Contemporary Christian Music Album, cementing her place as one of the most important voices in Christian music. Songs like Overcomer, Good Morning, and Stronger became anthems for people struggling with illness, grief, or personal battles. Mandisa didn't just sing about victory, she lived it. She was open about her struggles with depression and weight, sharing her journey in a way that made her relatable and real. Fans loved her honesty just as much as her music. Her death, officially attributed to complications from Class 3 obesity, the most severe form of obesity, was a reminder of the personal battles she fought behind her radiant smile. While her weight and health challenges were public, many were still shocked that those struggles had taken her life at such a young age. Lee Grant and Kirk Franklin praised her authenticity and the way she always pointed others toward hope. Fans filled social media with personal stories of how her songs had helped them through cancer treatments, loss of loved ones, or seasons of deep despair. It was clear that Mandisa had touched lives far beyond what charts or awards could measure. Her story is bittersweet, a life filled with triumphs, resilience, and faith, but also marked by struggles that eventually cut it short. Yet her legacy is undeniable. Mandisa's voice will continue to echo in churches, homes, and hearts for years to come. More than a singer, she was a warrior of hope, reminding the world that light can shine even in the darkest valleys. Mandisa may be gone, but her music ensures that her message that no one is ever truly alone in their battles lives on. Aaliyah. On August 25, 2001, the music world was forever altered by the devastating news that Aaliyah Dana Houghton had died in a plane crash at only 22 years old. Known as the Princess of R&B, Aaliyah was more than just a singer. She was a cultural phenomenon who blended style, elegance, and innovation into every aspect of her artistry. Her shocking death cut short a career that was only just beginning to reach its full potential, leaving fans wondering what heights she could have reached. Born on January 16, 1979 in Brooklyn and raised in Detroit, Aaliyah's connection to music began early. At just 10 years old, she appeared on Star Search and later performed alongside her famous aunt Gladys Knight. Her voice, even as a child, carried maturity and confidence. By 15, she was signed to Blackground Records and released her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number 1994, produced by R. Kelly. With hits like Back and Forth and her cover of At Your Best, You Are Love, she became a teenage sensation. Her second album, One in a Million 1996, marked a major turning point. Collaborating with Timbaland and Missy Elliott, Aaliyah pioneered a futuristic R&B sound that reshaped the genre. Songs like If Your Girl Only Knew Hot Like Fire and the haunting ballad One in a Million showcased her silky, understated vocals layered over innovative beats. The album sold over 8 million copies worldwide, cementing her status as a superstar. But Aaliyah wasn't content to dominate just the music charts. She was equally determined to make her mark in Hollywood. She starred in Romeo Must Die 2000, alongside Jet Li, proving she could carry a feature film with natural charisma. She had already filmed part of her role for the Matrix sequels, and was set to star in Honey, a dance film that later went to Jessica Alba. It was clear Aaliyah was on the cusp of becoming a true multimedia icon. Her self-titled third album, Aaliyah 2001, was released just weeks before her death. Critics hailed it as her most mature and experimental work, yet featuring songs like We Need a Resolution, Rock the Boat, and More Than a Woman. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and was poised to become her defining masterpiece. Tragically, it would also become her last. On that fateful August day, Aaliyah and her crew boarded a small plane in the Bahamas after filming the video for Rock the Boat. The aircraft, later found to be overloaded with equipment and improperly certified, crashed shortly after takeoff, killing all 9 people on board. The loss reverberated around the world. Fans, peers, and critics alike struggled to comprehend how someone so young, talented, and beloved could be taken so suddenly. In the years since her passing, Aaliyah's influence has only grown. Her style baggy pants with crop tops, sleek hair covering one eye, and minimalistic yet powerful fashion remains iconic. Artists such as Beyoncé, Rihanna, Drake, and The Weeknd have cited her as an influence, with tributes continuing to appear in music, fashion, and film. In 2021, her music was finally re-released on streaming platforms, introducing her timeless voice to a new generation. Aaliyah's story is one of brilliance, promise, and tragedy. She was a trailblazer who redefined R&B, inspired countless artists, and left behind a catalog of music that feels as fresh now as it did decades ago. Though she lived only 22 short years, her impact endures, proof that true artistry transcends time. Aaliyah remains not just a memory, but a symbol of what it means to shine brightly, even if only for a fleeting moment. Lloyd Avery. When Lloyd Avery II was found dead in his prison cell on September 4, 2005, at only 36 years old, the news barely made national headlines. Yet for those who knew him through film, his shocking death carried an eerie weight. Avery's short but turbulent life mirrored the roles he played on screen, characters caught between talent trouble and tragedy. His story serves as one of Hollywood's most haunting reminders of how quickly promise can spiral into downfall. Born June 21, 1969 in Los Angeles, Avery grew up in Baldwin Hills, a middle-class neighborhood often described as the Black Beverly Hills. Unlike many who portrayed gang members on screen, Avery didn't grow up immersed in gang culture. His upbringing was relatively stable and he had opportunities. Still, the lure of Los Angeles street life would later play a defining role in his fate. Avery broke into Hollywood in the early 1990s, right at the height of the hood film movement. His big break came when director John Singleton cast him in the groundbreaking 1991 film Boys and the Hood. Avery's role was small, credited as Knucklehead number 2, but unforgettable. In one chilling scene, his character leaned out of a car window and gunned down. Ricky, played by Morris Chestnut, in one of the most devastating moments in modern cinema. That single scene seared his face into the memory of filmgoers, symbolizing the cycle of violence gripping Los Angeles communities. He later appeared in Poetic Justice 1993 alongside Janet Jackson and Tupac Shakur, further solidifying his place in black cinema of the 90s. While some actors used those films as a springboard to success, Avery seemed to absorb their darkness. His brother Che Avery, also an actor, later spoke of Lloyd's struggles, painting a picture of a man torn between ambition and destructive influences. Though his life ended in tragedy, Lloyd Avery II's impact endures through a handful of unforgettable performances. His chilling portrayal in Boys and the Hood remains one of cinema's most haunting depictions of senseless violence. To many fans, he embodied the grim reality Singleton wanted the world to see: the cost of street life, the fragility of hope, and the irreversible consequences of one violent act. Avery's name may not sit beside Hollywood's greatest stars, but his story lingers as both a reminder of wasted potential and a tragic reflection of the environments he portrayed. His death wasn't just the end of an actor's life, it was the final chapter of a man who became trapped in the very roles that once gave him purpose. Tupac Shakur. On September 13, 1996, the world lost one of its most electrifying voices when Tupac Amaru Shakur died from gunshot wounds sustained in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. He was only 25 years old, but in that short span, Tupac became a cultural icon whose influence on music, film, and activism still resonates nearly 3 decades later. His death shocked fans across the globe and remains one of the most infamous unsolved murders in American history. Born June 16, 1971 in East Harlem, New York, Tupac's destiny seemed written from the start. His mother, Afeni Shakur, was a member of the Black Panther Party, and his name was inspired by Tupac Amaru II, an 18th-century Peruvian revolutionary. Growing up, Tupac was surrounded by political consciousness, poetry, and struggle. That environment molded him into an artist who could speak to both the pain and resilience of Black communities. His career began humbly as a backup dancer and roadie for the rap group Digital Underground. But his charisma quickly pushed him to the forefront. By 1991, he had released his debut solo album, Tupacalypse Now. The record was raw, political, and unapologetic. Songs like Brenda's Got a Baby and Trapped brought attention to issues of teen pregnancy, systemic poverty, and police brutality. The album also stirred controversy, with politicians criticizing it for encouraging violence against law enforcement. But for fans, Tupac was voicing truths they lived daily. As the 1990s progressed, Tupac's star rose rapidly. Albums like Strictly 4, My N.I. Gigi A.Z., Me Against the World, and his magnum opus All Eyes on Me showcased his versatility, balancing raw, aggressive anthems with introspective tracks that revealed vulnerability. Songs such as Dear Mama highlighted his deep love for his mother, while California Love became an iconic West Coast party anthem. His ability to move seamlessly between activism, vulnerability, and bravado made him unlike any other rapper of his generation. Parallel to his music career, Tupac proved himself as an actor. In Juice 1992, he played Bishop, a troubled young man spiraling into violence. His performance was chillingly authentic, earning him critical acclaim. Roles in Poetic Justice 1993, alongside Janet Jackson, and Above the Rim 1994, further cemented his acting potential. Hollywood had begun to see him not just as a rapper, but as a legitimate movie star. But fame brought turbulence. Tupac was entangled in legal issues, including a highly publicized sexual assault conviction in 1995 that led to prison time. He was also a central figure in the East Coast versus West Coast hip-hop rivalry, a feud that fueled tensions across the music industry. His alliance with Death Row Records and clashes with artists like the notorious B.I.G. escalated into violence that would have deadly consequences. On September 7, 1996, after attending a Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, Tupac was riding in a BMW driven by Death Row CEO Suge Knight. At a red light, a white Cadillac pulled alongside their car and opened fire. Tupac was hit 4 times, including 2 shots to the chest. He was rushed to University Medical Center, but succumbed to his injuries 6 days later. Even in death, Tupac's influence only grew. He has sold over 75 million records worldwide, making him one of the best-selling artists of all time. His lyrics continue to inspire new generations of rappers, poets, and activists. Documentaries, books, and films about his life keep his memory alive, while theories about his murder remain the subject of debate and speculation. In 2017, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a recognition of his unmatched impact on music and culture. Tupac Shakur's life was filled with contradictions: poet and thug activist and outlaw, vulnerable son and fearless fighter. His death robbed the world of an artist who was still evolving, but his words remain timeless. More than a rapper, Tupac was the embodiment of a generation's struggle and a reminder of how fragile greatness can be. Young Dolph. On November 17, 2021, Memphis was rocked by the shocking murder of Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., better known to the world as Young Dolph. At just 36 years old, the independent rap star was gunned down while buying cookies for his mother at Makeda's Homemade Butter Cookies, a shop he frequented. His killing stunned fans everywhere, not just because of the violent nature of his death, but because it ended the life of an artist who symbolized perseverance, authenticity, and independence in an industry dominated by major labels. Born July 27, 1985 in Chicago, but raised in Memphis, Tennessee, Young Dolph grew up in tough circumstances. His parents struggled with addiction, and he often spoke candidly in interviews about how those early experiences shaped his worldview. Rather than succumbing to hardship, Dolph used those challenges as fuel, pouring his pain, pride, and resilience into his music. By his late teens, he was recording mixtapes that quickly spread across Memphis. His breakthrough came in 2008 with the release of Paper Route Campaign, Unlike many artists, Dolph chose to remain independent, founding his own label, Paper Route Empire. He wanted full control of his career, his masters, and his business decisions. This independence became one of his defining traits, inspiring a generation of artists to take ownership of their work, rather than rely on major labels. Over time, his empire grew, signing other promising artists and proving that an independent artist could thrive without compromise. Albums like King of Memphis 2016 and Rich Slave 2020 showcased his signature style, gritty, straightforward, and unapologetically Southern. His deep voice and conversational delivery gave his music an authenticity that resonated with fans. He wasn't trying to be a radio-friendly pop star. He was telling the truth about survival, family, and loyalty. Rich Slave debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200, becoming his highest charting project, and a testament to how far his independent grind had taken him. Beyond music, young Dolph was a dedicated family man. He often spoke about wanting to break generational cycles, ensuring his children would grow up with stability and wealth he never had. He invested heavily in Memphis real estate, purchased luxury cars, not just for himself, but as rewards for his loyal team, and donated to schools and charities across the city. He lived his lyrics embodying the hustle and generosity that made his fans love him even more. His career, however, was not without conflict. Dolph had a long-running feud with fellow Memphis rapper Yo Gotti, a rivalry that sometimes spilled into violence. In 2017, he survived a shooting in Charlotte, North Carolina, and later that year he was shot multiple times in Los Angeles, but recovered. These incidents fueled speculation that his lifestyle and independence made him a target. Still, Dolph refused to back down, often saying he would never leave Memphis because the city was part of who he was. That decision proved fateful. On the afternoon of November 17, 2021, 2 armed men ambushed him at Makeda's, firing fatal shots before fleeing. Surveillance footage later confirmed the brutal precision of the attack. The killing devastated Memphis, sparking vigils, marches, and outpourings of grief from fans and fellow artists across the world. Do you think young Dolph's decision to stay independent was what made him most inspiring? Or was it his loyalty to Memphis that defined his legacy? In the wake of his death, tributes poured in. Fellow rappers like Gucci Mane, Megan Thee Stallion, and Chance the Rapper honored him, while fans reflected on how his music had motivated them through their own struggles. His label, Paper Route Empire, released a compilation album to keep his vision alive, and his family vowed to continue his philanthropic efforts in Memphis. Young Dolph's murder is a tragic reminder of how violence continues to claim talented lives in hip-hop. But his story is also one of triumph. A man who rose from poverty, stayed true to his roots, built his own empire, and inspired countless others to take control of their destiny. Though his life was cut short, his message of independence and resilience will echo far beyond Memphis for years to come. Nipsey Hussle. On March 31st, 2019, Los Angeles lost one of its brightest lights when Ermias Joseph Asghedom, known to the world as Nipsey Hussle, was shot and killed outside his Marathon clothing store in the Crenshaw district. At just 33 years old, Nipsey was more than a rapper. He was a businessman, activist, and visionary who believed success meant nothing if you didn't bring your community with you. His shocking death was not only a tragedy for hip-hop, but also a devastating blow to the city he loved and uplifted. Born August 15, 1985, Nipsey grew up in South Los Angeles, an area often defined by poverty, gang violence, and limited opportunities. Instead of letting his environment consume him, he transformed those struggles into motivation. In his teenage years, he began making music that reflected his reality with brutal honesty. His early mixtapes, especially the Bullets Ain't Got No Name series, caught the attention of both fans and industry insiders. They weren't just songs, they were street narratives told with intelligence and heart. For over a decade, Nipsey chose independence over mainstream shortcuts. He founded All Money in his own record label and created a business model that stunned the music industry. In 2013, he famously released Crenshaw as a mixtape, selling copies for $100 each. Jay-Z bought 100 copies himself, signaling respect for Nipsey's bold approach. That moment solidified Nipsey as not just an artist, but an entrepreneur who thought differently about ownership and value. His major label debut came in 2018 with Victory Lap. The album was a celebration of his journey, filled with songs about struggle, growth, and triumph. Tracks like Last Time That I Checked and Dedication became anthems of perseverance, while Racks in the Middle earned him a Grammy nomination. Nipsey had finally arrived at the mainstream stage, but he did it on his own terms. Outside of music, Nipsey was deeply invested in his community. He opened businesses in Crenshaw, provided jobs for locals, and worked on initiatives to curb gang violence. He even partnered with city leaders to develop STEM programs for youth, ensuring the next generation had access to opportunities he never did. His Marathon clothing store wasn't just a business, it was a symbol of empowerment built in the same neighborhood where he grew up. Tragically, Nipsey's life ended just as it seemed he was stepping into a new chapter. On March 31, 2019, he was approached by Eric Holder Jr., a man with whom he reportedly had a brief, heated exchange. Minutes later, Holder returned with a gun and shot Nipsey multiple times. The attack happened in broad daylight right in front of his store. Nipsey was rushed to the hospital but pronounced dead shortly after. The world was left stunned. How could someone who gave so much to his people be killed in the very place he tried to rebuild? The aftermath was overwhelming. Thousands attended his memorial at the Staples Center, an honor usually reserved for sports legends and global icons. Former President Barack Obama even wrote a tribute letter praising Nipsey for inspiring young people to follow their dreams. Fellow artists like Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, and Beyoncé hailed him as a hero whose vision extended far beyond music. Nipsey Hussle's death was tragic, but his life left behind a blueprint for success rooted in community ownership and resilience. He showed the world that hip-hop could be more than entertainment. It could be a platform for empowerment and lasting change. The marathon, as he often said, continues. Nipsey will forever be remembered as a rapper, a revolutionary, and a leader who embodied the spirit of perseverance against all odds. His voice may be gone, but his legacy runs deep in the streets of Crenshaw and far beyond. Chadwick Boseman. On August 28, 2020, the world was blindsided by the news that Chadwick Aaron Boseman had passed away at just 43 years old after a private 4-year battle with colon cancer. For millions of fans, it was inconceivable that the man who brought King T'Challa to life in Black Panther, a symbol of power, pride, and dignity, had been fighting such a devastating illness in silence. His death left a void in Hollywood and in the hearts of those who saw him not just as an actor, but as a hero both on and off the screen. Born November 29, 1976, in Anderson, South Carolina. Chadwick's path to stardom wasn't straightforward. A gifted athlete and artist, he eventually pursued directing and playwriting at Howard University, where he was mentored by none other than Felicia Rashad. When financial struggles threatened his education, Denzel Washington famously paid for Chadwick's tuition through a scholarship and investment that would later pay dividends for the entire film industry. Boseman started his career in television with appearances on shows like Law and Order and Lincoln Heights. But his big breakthrough came in 2013 with 42, in which he portrayed Jackie Robinson, the first African-American to play Major League Baseball in the modern era. His performance captured not only Robinson's athleticism, but his courage in facing relentless racism with grace. A year later, he transformed into James Brown in Get On Up, electrifying audiences with uncanny energy and precision. In 2017, Chadwick embodied another icon, Thurgood Marshall, the first Black Supreme Court Justice in Marshall. Each of these roles showcased his ability to channel real-life legends with authenticity and respect. But it was his portrayal of King T'Challa in Marvel's Black Panther 2018 that catapulted him to global superstardom. The film became a cultural milestone, grossing over $1.3 billion worldwide and inspiring a generation of Black children to see themselves as superheroes. T'Challa was more than a comic book character. He was a symbol of African strength, unity, and possibility. Behind the scenes, however, Chadwick was quietly battling stage 3 colon cancer, which eventually progressed to stage 4. Despite grueling treatments and surgeries, he continued to work tirelessly, filming physically demanding movies like Black Panther: Avengers: Infinity War and Avengers: Endgame without revealing his illness to the public. His final film, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom 2020, earned him a posthumous Academy Award nomination, a fitting recognition for his artistry and resilience. The announcement of his passing sent shockwaves around the globe. Tributes poured in from world leaders, fellow actors, athletes, and fans. Former President Barack Obama remembered him as a man who used his time wisely, while Marvel Studios declared him their king forever. Social media was flooded with images of children holding Black Panther toys in the Wakanda Forever pose, grieving the loss of their hero. Chadwick's death also sparked a broader conversation about colon cancer, particularly its rising impact on younger people and communities of color. His decision to fight privately underscored his character. He didn't want sympathy or distraction, he wanted the world to focus on the work. And what a body of work he left behind. Chadwick Boseman will forever be remembered, not just for his roles, but for the dignity, strength, and humility he carried until the end. He showed the world what it meant to live with purpose, to fight silently for one's life while giving everything to one's art. His life was short, but his legacy is eternal, an everlasting reminder that true heroes don't just exist on screen, they walk among us. Rich Homie Quan. On September 5, 2024, the Atlanta hip-hop community was shaken when Rich Homie Quan was found dead at his home. He was only 34 years old. The cause of death was ruled an accidental overdose involving multiple substances. For fans who had followed his journey from the underground mixtape scene to mainstream recognition, the loss was devastating. It wasn't just the death of a rapper. It was the silencing of a voice that helped define an era of Atlanta rap. Born Dequantes. Devontae Lamar on October 4, 1989 in Atlanta, Georgia. Rich Homie Quan grew up surrounded by both the struggles and sounds of the city. Before music, his first dream was baseball, and he excelled as an athlete in high school. A scholarship opportunity even seemed possible. But when life took him in another direction, music became his calling. Like many young artists in Atlanta, Quan turned to mixtapes as his entry point into hip-hop. His breakout came in 2013 with Still Goin' and Reloaded. The mixtape included Type of Way, a track that became a cultural phenomenon. Its melodic flow and catchy hook captured the essence of Quan's style, a blend of rapping and singing that blurred genre boundaries. The song charted on Billboard, made him a household name, and proved that Atlanta was once again at the forefront of shaping hip-hop's future. That success was followed by Flex Ooh 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 in 2015, another hit that showcased his knack for making music that felt both raw and radio-ready. His sound was part of a larger movement in Atlanta that emphasized melody, emotion, and vulnerability. While trap dominated, Quan stood out for making music that was as much about feeling as it was about swagger. His influence can be traced in the melodic styles of many younger artists who followed. Rich Homie Quan was also known for his collaborations. His work with Young Thug, particularly their involvement in the Rich Gang project, produced tracks like Lifestyle, which became an anthem of ambition and survival. For a moment, it seemed like Quan was on the verge of becoming one of the biggest stars in rap. But as often happens in the industry, tensions, label disputes, and personal struggles began to slow his momentum. Even with those setbacks, Quan continued to release music, tour, and connect with his fan base. His authenticity kept listeners loyal. He wasn't trying to be something he wasn't. He was simply a man from Atlanta, telling his story through melodies that stuck in your head. Which track do you think best defines Rich Homie Quan's impact on Atlanta hip-hop? Type of Way or Flex? His death in 2024 was especially heartbreaking because it came at a time when fans sensed a resurgence. He had been hinting at new projects and seemed ready to reassert himself in an ever-changing rap landscape. Instead, his life ended abruptly, another casualty in a music industry that has lost too many young stars to drugs and addiction. Tributes poured in immediately. Fellow Atlanta rappers mourned not only a collaborator, but a brother. Social media filled with fans sharing memories of how Quan's music had carried them through high school, college, heartbreaks, and celebrations. For Atlanta, a city that has given so much to hip-hop, his death was another painful reminder of the fragility of life in the spotlight. Rich Homie Quan's legacy is one of innovation and honesty. He helped shape the sound of Atlanta in the 2010s, bridging the gap between street rap and melodic rap that dominates the charts today. Though his career had ups and downs, his influence remains undeniable. His passing cut short what could have been an inspiring comeback, but the music he left behind ensures he won't be forgotten. DMX. On April 9th, 2021, the world lost one of hip-hop's most electrifying voices when Earl Simmons, better known as DMX, died at age 50 after suffering a heart attack, reportedly triggered by a drug overdose. His passing was both heartbreaking and unsurprising, given his long battle with addiction. For fans, it marked the end of an era because DMX was not just a rapper, he was a raw force of energy, pain, faith, and authenticity that few could ever replicate. Born December 18, 1970 in Mount Vernon, New York, and raised in Yonkers, DMX's childhood was filled with trauma. Abandoned by his father and abused in his youth, he turned to the streets early. Dogs became his companions, a connection that influenced both his persona and his stage name. His growling delivery and barks weren't gimmicks, they were reflections of his survival instincts. By the late 1990s, DMX had turned his pain into art, exploding onto the scene with a ferocity that hip-hop had rarely seen. His debut album, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, 1998, debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and introduced the world to classics like Rough Riders Anthem and Get At Me Dog. That same year, he released a second album, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, which also debuted at #1. In fact, DMX achieved something no other rapper had done. His first 5 albums all entered the charts at #1. At a time when Jay-Z and others dominated hip-hop, DMX carved out his own lane, driven by raw emotion and spiritual struggle. His music was a paradox, violent yet vulnerable, aggressive yet prayerful. Tracks like Party Up in Here became club anthems, while songs like Slippin' revealed his deep battles with addiction and depression. He was a man of contradictions, openly reading prayers at his concerts, then switching into hardcore street narratives within the same set. That duality made him relatable to millions who saw him as both a flawed man and a prophet of survival. DMX also thrived as an actor. He starred in Belly 1998, Romeo Must Die 2000, and Exit Wounds 2001, proving that his magnetic presence extended beyond music. Hollywood embraced him, though his personal troubles often overshadowed his talent. Arrests, rehab stints, and public breakdowns became as much a part of his story as his platinum records. Yet through it all, fans never stopped rooting for him. Despite his issues, DMX remained a deeply spiritual man. He often spoke about his relationship with God, sometimes breaking down in prayer during interviews or on stage. For many fans, those moments felt more powerful than his music, because they revealed a man desperately searching for redemption. In April 2021, DMX suffered a drug-induced heart attack at his home in White Plains, New York. He was placed on life support for nearly a week before being pronounced dead. The news devastated fans and sparked an outpouring of tributes from across the world. Fellow rappers like Nas, Swizz Beatz, and Eve remembered him as a brother. Even those outside hip-hop, including actors and athletes, paid their respects to the man who had influenced them with his raw authenticity. DMX left behind 15 children and a complicated legacy. He was far from perfect, but he never pretended to be. His struggles with addiction and crime were real, yet so was his love for music, family, and faith. Few artists ever bared their souls so completely, and that is why his music still resonates. DMX's story is tragic, but it is also inspiring. He rose from poverty and trauma to become a global star, stumbling often, but always getting back up. His life reminds us that greatness is not about perfection, it is about truth. And DMX, in all his pain and glory, gave the world nothing less than his truth. The Sam Cooke. On December 11, 1964, the music world was rocked by the shocking and mysterious death of Sam Cooke. At just 33 years old, Cooke had already transformed popular music, becoming known as the King of Soul. His silky voice, innovative songwriting, and trailblazing business moves made him one of the most influential black artists of all time. But the circumstances of his death, involving a motel manager, a gun, and unanswered questions, remain one of music's most enduring controversies. Born January 22, 1931 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, and raised in Chicago, Sam Cooke grew up singing gospel with his siblings in church. His extraordinary talent was evident from childhood, and by the early 1950s he was the lead singer of the Soul Stirrers, one of the most important gospel groups of the era. His smooth tenor drew massive audiences, blending spirituality with a crossover appeal few could resist. By 1957, Cooke made the bold leap from gospel to secular music, a move considered controversial at the time. His first pop hit, You Send Me, sold over 1 million copies and shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. With its tender lyrics and effortless vocal delivery, it announced the arrival of a new kind of star. Cooke was not just a gospel singer trying pop, he was creating an entirely new sound that fused gospel passion with pop accessibility. Throughout the late 1950s and early 1960s, Cooke released a string of hits that would become timeless classics. Songs like Cupid Chain Gang, Wonderful World, and Bring It On Home to Me showcased his range and storytelling ability. He wasn't just a singer, he was a songwriter who understood how to capture universal emotions with elegance and simplicity. His influence can be heard in the work of countless artists, from Otis Redding to Al Green to Marvin Gaye. But Cooke was more than an artist. He was also a businessman and activist. He founded his own record label, SAR Records, and a publishing company, ensuring he retained control over his music and earnings at a time when black artists were routinely exploited. He also used his platform to support the civil rights movement, befriending leaders like Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X. His song A Change Is Gonna Come, released posthumously in 1964, became an anthem for the movement and one of the most powerful protest songs ever recorded. Then came the shocking events of December 11, 1964. Cooke was fatally shot by Bertha Franklin, the manager of the Hacienda Motel in Los Angeles. Franklin claimed she acted in self-defense after Cooke allegedly broke into her office, demanding the whereabouts of a woman who had left his hotel room with his clothes and money. The coroner ruled his death a justifiable homicide, but the bizarre circumstances left many unconvinced. Fans and family members suspected foul play, pointing to inconsistencies in testimonies and the fact that Cooke's career was at its peak. To this day, the details of that night remain hotly debated. Despite the controversy, Cooke's legacy is undeniable. His music continues to inspire, his pioneering business moves paved the way for artists to own their work, and his voice remains one of the most beloved in history. Rolling Stone ranked him among the greatest singers of all time, while A Change Is Gonna Come has been covered by generations of artists seeking to capture its timeless message of hope. Sam Cooke's story is bittersweet. He achieved more in 33 years than most do in a lifetime, yet his life ended violently and far too soon. Still, his music, his courage, and his vision live on. Sam Cooke was not only the king of soul, he was a revolutionary whose voice became the soundtrack of change. Whitney Houston. On February 11, 2012, the world lost Whitney Elizabeth Houston, a woman whose voice was once hailed as the greatest of her generation. At 48 years old, she was found dead in the bathtub of her Beverly Hilton hotel suite, just hours before a pre-Grammy party she was scheduled to attend. Her sudden death was ruled an accidental drowning with heart disease and cocaine use, listed as contributing factors. It was a heartbreaking end for a woman who had once been untouchable at the very top of music and film. Born August 9, 1963 in Newark, New Jersey, Whitney grew up surrounded by music. Her mother, Cissy Houston, was a renowned gospel singer, and her cousins included Dionne Warwick and Dee Dee Warwick. With such a lineage, it seemed inevitable that Whitney would find her way to the stage. By age 11, she was singing solos in church. By her teens, she was modeling and recording background vocals for artists like Chaka Khan and Jermaine Jackson. Her career exploded in 1985 with the release of her self-titled debut album. Songs like Greatest Love of All and How Will I Know showcased her angelic yet powerful voice, establishing her as a new kind of superstar. Her second album, Whitney, 1987, made history by debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200, and singles like I Wanna Dance with Somebody turned her into a global phenomenon. By the late 1980s, she was not just a singer, she was an icon. The pinnacle of her career came in the early 1990s. In 1992, she starred opposite Kevin Costner in The Bodyguard, a film that became a worldwide hit. The soundtrack's lead single, I Will Always Love You, remains one of the best-selling singles of all time, spending 14 consecutive weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. With over 200 million records sold worldwide, Houston became the most awarded female artist in history, with 6 Grammys, 22 American Music Awards, and countless other honors. But fame came with heavy burdens. Whitney's marriage to singer Bobby Brown was tumultuous and often played out in public. Reports of substance abuse began to overshadow her career, and her once flawless voice started to show the strain. By the 2000s, public appearances often sparked concern rather than celebration. Still, she made comebacks, including the 2009 album I Look to You, which debuted at #1, proving her ability to inspire and uplift even through personal chaos. Her final years were marked by attempts at revival. She toured, appeared on television, and continued recording, but the shadow of addiction followed her relentlessly. Then came the tragic day of February 11, 2012. Found submerged in her hotel bathtub, the coroner's report confirmed what many feared: drugs and health complications had finally caught up to her. For fans, the news was a devastating confirmation that even the most gifted voices are not immune to life's darkest battles. Tributes poured in from across the world. Jennifer Hudson performed I Will Always Love You at the Grammys, just a day later bringing the audience to tears. Clive Davis, her longtime mentor, remembered her as a once-in-a-lifetime artist. Fans gathered outside her funeral in Newark, lining the streets to say goodbye to the woman who had defined the sound of an era. Whitney Houston's legacy is both triumphant and tragic. She remains the only artist to have 7 consecutive #1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100, and her voice continues to inspire new generations. Yet her story is also a cautionary tale about the price of fame and the destructive grip of addiction. Whitney will forever be remembered as the voice, a singer who gave the world some of its most unforgettable songs. Though her life ended in sorrow, her music endures, echoing the brilliance of a star who will never truly fade. Jam Master Jay. On October 30th, 2002, hip-hop lost one of its true pioneers when Jason William Mizell, better known as Jam Master Jay, was shot and killed in his Queens recording studio. At just 37 years old, his death stunned fans and artists alike. Jam Master Jay was more than a DJ. He was the backbone of Run DMC, the man who helped elevate hip-hop from a street movement into a global cultural force. His murder remained unsolved for nearly 2 decades, leaving fans to grapple with unanswered questions and the pain of losing a legend. Born January 21, 1965 in Brooklyn, New York, Jam Master Jay grew up surrounded by music. He learned to play drums, guitar, and bass before falling in love with the turntables. By the early 1980s, he had joined forces with Joseph Run Simmons and Daryl DMC McDaniels, forming Run DMC. Together, they changed the face of hip-hop forever. Run DMC's debut album in 1984 introduced a harder, edgier sound that broke away from disco-inspired rap. But it was Jay's innovative DJing, scratching, cutting, and blending beats that gave the group its distinct identity. He wasn't just providing background sounds, He was an integral performer commanding as much respect as the MCs themselves. The group's influence exploded with hits like It's Tricky My Adidas and King of Rock. But their 1986 collaboration with Aerosmith on Walk This Way was revolutionary. By blending rock and rap, they created a crossover hit that introduced hip-hop to mainstream audiences worldwide. The song didn't just dominate the charts, it changed music history, paving the way for hip-hop to become a permanent fixture in popular culture. Jam Master Jay's stage presence was unmistakable: the wide-brimmed hat, the gold chain, the calm mastery over his turntables. He embodied the cool confidence of hip-hop, proving that DJs were not just behind-the-scenes figures, but stars in their own right. His skills influenced generations of DJs who followed, cementing his place as one of the greatest to ever touch the turntables. Outside of Run DMC, Jay was committed to mentoring the next wave of artists. He founded Jam Master Jay Records, which helped launch the career of 50 Cent. His studio in Queens became a safe haven for aspiring musicians, a place where creativity thrived. He wasn't just building hits, he was building futures. Then came that tragic October night in 2002. Two gunmen entered his studio in Hollis, Queens, and fatally shot him in the head. He died instantly. The murder shook the hip-hop world and left fans devastated. For years, the case went cold, fueling speculation and conspiracy theories. Many wondered how someone so respected, so beloved in his community could be killed so brutally. Finally, in 2020, federal prosecutors charged two men in connection with the killing, alleging that the motive was tied to a drug dispute. While the arrests brought some measure of closure, the fact that it took nearly 20 years to reach that point was a painful reminder of how violence can claim even the most positive figures in hip-hop. Jam Master Jay's funeral drew thousands with tributes from across the entertainment industry. Run DMC disbanded shortly afterward, unable to continue without their brother. For fans, his death was not only the loss of a musical innovator, but also the end of one of hip-hop's most iconic groups. Jam Master Jay's legacy lives on in every DJ who dares to step into the spotlight, in every fusion of rap and rock, and in the continuing influence of Run DMC's groundbreaking work. He proved that hip-hop was more than music, it was culture, unity, and power. Though his life was cut short, his impact will resonate for generations. Bobbi Kristina Brown. On July 26, 2015, the world mourned the passing of Bobbi Kristina Brown, the only daughter of music legends Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown. At just 22 years old, her death felt eerily tragic, mirroring the fate of her famous mother who had died just 3 years earlier. Both were found unresponsive in bathtubs, both had histories of substance abuse, and both left the world far too soon. Born March 4, 1993 in Livingston, New Jersey, Bobbi Kristina was thrust into the spotlight from the moment she entered the world. As the child of two superstars, her life was documented in tabloids, red carpets, and reality TV shows. Growing up in the public eye came with extraordinary privilege, but it also brought unbearable pressure. Fans expected her to inherit Whitney's golden voice, and many assumed she would one day follow in her mother's footsteps. During her teenage years, Bobbi Kristina appeared on the reality series, Being Bobby Brown. Viewers watched her navigate life between her parents' turbulent marriage and their public battles with addiction. The exposure only deepened the scrutiny around her, and while she occasionally showed interest in singing and acting, she often struggled under the weight of expectations. Whitney's death on February 11, 2012, shattered Bobbi Kristina. At just 19, she lost not only her mother, but also her guiding light. Friends and family noted that her grief was overwhelming and compounded by her own struggles with substance abuse. She often spoke about feeling lost without her mother, and turned increasingly toward a controversial relationship with Nick Gordon, who was informally raised by Whitney and considered by many as a surrogate son. Their romance was criticized heavily by both the public and her family. Bobbi Kristina and Nick Gordon referred to themselves as married, though no official record confirmed it. Their relationship, marked by affection and turbulence, became tabloid fodder. Many close to her feared the union was toxic, with allegations of drug use and domestic problems surrounding them. Then came the fateful day of January 31st, 2015. Bobbi Kristina was found face down in a bathtub at her Roswell, Georgia home. Paramedics rushed her to the hospital, where she was placed in a medically induced coma. For nearly 6 months, she remained unresponsive, her condition the subject of constant media coverage. Fans hoped for a miracle, but on July 26, 2015, she passed away from lobar pneumonia, a complication of the prolonged brain damage she had suffered. In the aftermath of her death, controversy deepened. Her family accused Nick Gordon of contributing to her decline, filing a wrongful death lawsuit against him. In 2016, a judge ruled Gordon legally responsible, ordering him to pay $36 million in damages. Though criminal charges were never filed, the case left lasting scars, cementing Bobbi Kristina's story as one of tragedy, conflict, and unfulfilled potential. Despite the darkness, many remember Bobbi Kristina with tenderness. She inherited her mother's beauty and charisma, and at times her singing voice showed flashes of Whitney's brilliance. Friends recalled her sweet nature, her laughter, and her desire to love deeply, even when life's circumstances made that difficult. Her funeral, held in Georgia, brought together grieving fans and celebrities who saw in her story the painful cycle of fame, addiction, and loss. For many, her death was not just the tragedy of a young woman gone too soon, it was also the haunting continuation of Whitney Houston's unfinished story. Bobbi Kristina Brown's life reminds us that fame is often a double-edged sword. The same spotlight that made her visible also magnified her struggles. Though her story ended tragically, her memory remains tied to her mother's legacy, a bittersweet reminder of the price of fame and the fragility of life. Marvin Gaye. On April 1, 1984, the music world was shaken by the shocking death of Marvin Gaye, one of Motown's brightest stars and one of the greatest soul singers of all time. At just 44 years old, Marvin was fatally shot by his own father during a heated argument at their Los Angeles home. His death, just one day before his 45th birthday, was both heartbreaking and deeply ironic, as Marvin had spent much of his career singing about love, peace, and healing. Born April 2, 1939 in Washington, D.C., Marvin Pence Gaye Jr., he later added the E to his last name, grew up in a strict religious household. His father, Marvin Gaye Sr., was a Pentecostal minister, and his mother worked as a domestic worker. Church became his first stage, where Marvin developed his extraordinary vocal range. But life at home was often filled with tension and conflict, something that would haunt him even as he rose to stardom. Marvin's big break came when he signed with Motown Records in the early 1960s. Initially working as a session drummer, he soon emerged as a star in his own right. Early hits like Stubborn Kind of Fellow, How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You and I Heard It Through the Grapevine showcased his smooth tenor and emotional delivery. By the late 60s, Marvin was one of Motown's biggest acts, helping define the sound that made Detroit the epicenter of soul music. But Marvin was never content to simply sing love songs. In 1971, he released What's Going On, an album inspired by his brother's experiences in the Vietnam War and the social unrest of the era. Initially rejected by Motown executives for being too political, the album went on to become one of the greatest in music history. With songs like Mercy, Mercy Me, The Ecology and Inner City Blues Make Me Wanna Holler, Marvin gave voice to the struggles of an entire generation. His willingness to tackle war, poverty, and environmental issues through soul music was groundbreaking. Throughout the 1970s, Marvin continued to dominate the charts with albums like Let's Get It On, 1973, and I Want You, 1976. His sensual ballads earned him a reputation as a master of intimacy, while his social commentary kept him respected as an artist of depth. But behind the scenes, Marvin battled depression, drug addiction, and financial troubles. His personal life was often chaotic, with failed marriages and tax issues adding to his struggles. By the early 1980s, Marvin attempted a comeback. His 1982 single Sexual Healing became a massive hit, winning 2 Grammy Awards and reintroducing him to a new generation of listeners. The song reached #1 on the R&B charts and #3 on the Billboard Hot 100, proving Marvin's brilliance had not faded. Yet even as his career revived, his personal life unraveled further. On April 1, 1984, after a series of escalating arguments with his father, Marvin was fatally shot twice in the chest with a revolver his father had previously been given by Marvin himself. The tragedy was surreal. One of the greatest singers of love songs was killed by the very man who had raised him. The world lost not only a musical genius, but also a complicated soul whose life had been marked by both extraordinary highs and devastating lows. Marvin's death sent shockwaves across the globe. Thousands attended his funeral in Los Angeles, and tributes poured in from artists across genres. Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, and Smokey Robinson all mourned the loss of their Motown brother. Posthumously, Marvin has remained a towering figure in music. In 1987, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in 2020, What's Going On was ranked by Rolling Stone as the greatest album of all time. Marvin Gaye's life was a study in contrasts: love and conflict, faith and temptation, triumph and tragedy. His music continues to inspire comfort and challenge listeners decades after his death. Though his life was cut short, his voice remains eternal, a reminder of the beauty and pain of the human experience. Black Rob. On April 17, 2021, Robert Ross, better known to the world as Black Rob, died from cardiac arrest related to kidney disease at age 51. For fans of late 1990s and early 2000s hip-hop, his passing was more than just another obituary. It was the loss of a voice that had once vividly narrated the harsh realities of New York street life. His story was one of talent struggle and tragedy. An artist who gave the world an unforgettable hit, only to later face illness and financial hardship in silence. Born June 16, 1969 in Buffalo, New York, Black Rob grew up in East Harlem, an environment where survival often meant toughness, creativity, or both. By his teenage years, he was writing rhymes and performing with local groups, sharpening the gritty storytelling style that would later define his music. He gained early respect on the underground scene, his voice instantly recognizable for its gravelly texture that carried both menace and experience. His big break came when Sean "Puffy" Combs signed him to Bad Boy Records, the same label that launched the notorious B.I.G. and Mace. In 2000, Black Rob released Life Story, his debut album, which went platinum. The record's centerpiece was Whoa, a track that became a street anthem overnight. With its pounding beat and Rob's raw delivery, Whoa perfectly captured the energy of turn-of-the-century hip-hop. The song's hook, simple, catchy, and forceful, made it a club staple and cemented Rob as a distinctive new voice in rap. But while Whoa made him famous, it also became a weight. Fans and industry executives wanted him to recreate the same magic, yet Rob struggled with legal troubles and health issues that derailed his career. His sophomore album, The Black Rob Report, 2005, received critical praise but failed to achieve the commercial success of his debut. Prison stints and medical setbacks further distanced him from the spotlight. Despite these challenges, Rob never lost his authenticity. His music, whether widely heard or not, remained rooted in the honesty of street narratives. He didn't glamorize hardship, he told it as it was. And that was part of his appeal. He was real, unfiltered, and unapologetic. By the 2010s, Black Rob's health began to decline. He suffered multiple strokes, and by 2015, it was clear he was living with serious kidney disease. Fans were shocked when videos surfaced in 2021 showing him frail, thin, and visibly in pain while paying tribute to the late DMX from a hospital bed. The images raised questions about how an artist who once sold platinum records could be left struggling with medical bills and without stable support. In his final years, fellow artists and fans raised money to help him cover treatments and basic living expenses. Even then, Black Rob remained humble, expressing gratitude to those who still remembered him. On April 17, 2021, he died of cardiac arrest caused by kidney disease. He left behind 4 children and a legacy defined not only by woe, but also by his unflinching portrayal of street life. Tributes poured in from across hip-hop. Diddy remembered him as a brother, while fans filled social media with memories of blasting woe in cars clubs and block parties. For many, Black Rob's music was tied to a time and place in their lives that will never be forgotten. Black Rob's story is bittersweet. He climbed from Harlem's streets to the top of the charts, only to later face decline in health and fortune. Yet his voice remains immortalized in one of the most iconic songs of its era. His life may have ended too soon, but his music, gritty, raw, and unforgettable, still echoes in the culture he helped shape. The Notorious B.I.G. On March 9, 1997, the world of hip-hop lost one of its greatest storytellers when Christopher George LaTorre Wallace, better known as the Notorious B.I.G., or Biggie Smalls, was shot and killed in Los Angeles. At just 24 years old, Biggie had already become a rap legend, transforming the East Coast sound and elevating hip-hop to new artistic heights. His murder occurring just 6 months after Tupac Shakur's left the music industry shaken and fueled one of the most infamous unsolved cases in modern pop culture. Born May 21, 1972 in Brooklyn, New York, Biggie grew up in the tough neighborhood of Bedford-Stuyvesant. Raised by his mother Voletta Wallace after his father left when he was 2, Biggie faced the struggles of poverty early on. Despite being an excellent student, he dropped out of high school and turned to street life, including selling drugs. But even then, he carried a gift for words, freestyle battles, and storytelling that set him apart. His early demo tapes caught the attention of Sean Puffy Combs, who quickly signed him to Bad Boy Records. In 1994, Biggie released his debut album, Ready to Die. The album was both raw and poetic, chronicling his struggles with violence, crime, and ambition. Tracks like Juicy told his personal rags-to-riches story, while Big Papa revealed his charisma and playful side. The album went quadruple platinum and established Biggie as the new king of East Coast rap. His style was unmatched. With a deep, smooth flow and razor-sharp lyrics, Biggie could paint pictures of street life with cinematic clarity. He balanced grit with humor, toughness with vulnerability. Critics praised him as a natural storyteller who could make listeners feel like they were right there in the world he described. By the mid-1990s, however, Biggie was caught in the middle of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry that defined hip-hop's most dangerous era. His friendship with Tupac Shakur had soured, and media hype around their feud only escalated tensions between Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records. While Biggie himself often downplayed the beef in interviews, his association with the feud made him a central figure in the conflict. In 1997, Biggie was preparing for the release of his second album, Life After Death. On March 8th, he attended a party at the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. In the early hours of March 9th, while riding in an SUV, he was shot 4 times in a drive-by. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. The murder shocked fans worldwide, and like Tupac's killing, it remains officially unsolved, though many theories about motives and suspects persist. Just weeks after his death, Life After Death was released and debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. The album, featuring classics like Hypnotize and Mo Money Mo Problems, went diamond, selling over 10 million copies. The title itself felt prophetic, as if Biggie had anticipated his fate. In the years since, the Notorious B.I.G.'s influence has only grown. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2020, and his music continues to inspire artists across genres. His legacy lives not only through his catalog, but also through his children, Tayana Wallace and C.J. Wallace, who carry forward his memory. Biggie's story is both inspiring and tragic. He rose from Brooklyn's streets to become one of the most respected rappers in history, only to have his life cut short at its peak. His voice, his words, and his vision continue to echo through hip-hop, a reminder of what was lost and what still lives on in his art. Kyrie Jackson. On July 6, 2024, tragedy struck the world of American football when Kyrie Jackson, a rookie cornerback recently drafted by the Minnesota Vikings, was killed in a car crash in Prince George's County, Maryland. At just 24 years old, Jackson's life and career were cut short before he ever had the chance to step onto an NFL field. For fans, teammates, and family, the news was crushing. A young man full of promise and determination was gone far too soon. Born December 12, 2000 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Kyrie's path to professional football was anything but ordinary. Unlike many athletes who are scouted early and enjoy smooth paths to stardom, Jackson had to fight for every opportunity. After high school, he began at Fort Scott Community College in Kansas, a school far from the spotlight of Division I football. Many players give up when the odds seem stacked against them, but Jackson refused to quit. His perseverance paid off when he transferred to the University of Alabama, one of the premier football programs in the nation. Under legendary coach Nick Saban, Jackson sharpened his skills and proved he could hold his own against elite competition. Though his playing time was limited, he showed flashes of athleticism, speed, and raw potential. Later, he transferred to the University of Oregon, where he blossomed into a standout defensive back. His size, standing 6'3", and ability to disrupt passes made him an appealing prospect for the NFL. In the 2024 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings selected Jackson in the 4th round. For him, it was the realization of a lifelong dream. Draft day was emotional as he reflected on the difficult journey that had brought him there. From junior college to Alabama to Oregon and finally to the NFL, Jackson's story was one of persistence, grit, and self-belief. Coaches praised his work ethic, noting how quickly he was adapting to the Vikings' defensive schemes during training camp. Teammates described him as confident, hardworking, and humble. Many believed he would compete for playing time in his rookie season and potentially develop into a starter in the coming years. He represented not just a draft pick, but hope for the future of Minnesota's defense. Then came the unthinkable. In the early morning hours of July 6, 2024, Jackson was traveling with 2 former high school teammates when their vehicle was struck by another car. The crash proved fatal for all 3 young men. Investigations later revealed the other driver had been speeding, turning a night of reunion into an irreversible tragedy. The Vikings organization released a heartfelt statement mourning the loss of a player they had come to admire in such a short time. Fans, many of whom had just begun to learn Jackson's name, flooded social media with condolences and prayers for his family. His mother and loved ones spoke of his determination, resilience, and the joy he brought to those around him. While his professional career never had the chance to fully unfold, Kyrie Jackson's story left an indelible mark. He proved that unconventional paths can still lead to success, that perseverance matters as much as raw talent, and that dreams can be achieved with relentless dedication. His legacy now stands as inspiration for every young athlete facing setbacks and doubts. Kyrie Jackson's death is a painful reminder of how fragile life is, especially for young people on the cusp of greatness. Though the world never got to witness his full potential on the NFL stage, his journey remains a testament to resilience. His story will continue to motivate others chasing their dreams, showing that even in tragedy, there can be inspiration. Michael K. Williams. On September 6, 2021, the entertainment world was devastated by the news that Michael Kenneth Williams, one of television's most gifted character actors, had been found dead in his Brooklyn apartment. At 54 years old, Williams had built a legacy of unforgettable roles and raw portrayals of humanity. But his life was tragically cut short by an accidental overdose involving fentanyl-laced heroin. His passing highlighted not only the devastating toll of addiction, but also the fragility of even the most celebrated lives. Born November 22, 1966 in Brooklyn, Williams grew up in the East Flatbush neighborhood. Raised by his mother after his father left, he faced the struggles of inner-city life, but also developed a love for performance. Before acting, he worked as a dancer and choreographer, appearing in music videos for artists like Madonna and George Michael. His life took a dramatic turn when he suffered a facial slash in a bar fight at age 25, leaving him with a permanent scar. Rather than hiding it, Williams embraced the mark, which later became his signature feature in Hollywood. His breakthrough came in 2002 when he was cast as Omar Little in HBO's The Wire. Omar, a shotgun-wielding stick-up man who robbed drug dealers, became one of the most iconic television characters of all time. Complex-principled and deeply human, Omar broke stereotypes in the portrayal of black men on TV. Williams' nuanced performance made the character unforgettable, earning him praise from critics and fans alike. The Wire itself is often hailed as one of the greatest television series ever made, and Omar remains its most enduring figure. Williams didn't stop there. He went on to play Albert Chalky White in HBO's Boardwalk Empire, bringing gravitas to the role of a powerful yet conflicted gangster navigating Atlantic City's criminal underworld during Prohibition. In When They See Us, 2019, he portrayed the father of one of the wrongly accused Central Park Five, delivering a heartbreaking performance that earned him widespread acclaim. His work on Lovecraft Country 2020 further showcased his range, and he was nominated for an Emmy for his role as Montrose Freeman. Off-screen, Williams was known for his humility and his commitment to social justice. He frequently returned to his Brooklyn community to mentor at-risk youth, using his fame to shine light on issues like mass incarceration and poverty. Despite his success, he remained deeply connected to his roots, often saying that he saw acting as a way to give a voice to the voiceless. Yet behind the talent and activism, Williams battled demons. He openly discussed his struggles with addiction, admitting that even at the height of his career, he often found himself using drugs between shoots. This vulnerability made him relatable, but it also made his death all the more painful. On September 6, 2021, he was discovered unresponsive in his apartment. The New York Medical Examiner later confirmed the cause as acute intoxication from a mix of fentanyl heroin and cocaine. His death underscored the dangers of America's opioid crisis, a tragedy that has claimed countless lives. Tributes poured in from across Hollywood. Spike Lee, Ava DuVernay, Viola Davis, and many of his Wire co-stars remembered him as not just an extraordinary actor, but a kind and gentle soul. Former President Barack Obama even referenced Omar as his favorite TV character, proof of the cultural reach Williams had achieved. Michael K. Williams's story is both inspiring and heartbreaking. He rose from Brooklyn streets to international stardom, crafting characters that changed television forever. Yet his struggles showed that no amount of fame can shield someone from the pain of addiction. His legacy is one of brilliance, vulnerability, and truth. He gave the world characters who will live forever even though his own life ended too soon. Bernie Mac. On August 9, 2008, the world of comedy lost one of its brightest stars when Bernard Jeffrey McCullough, universally known as Bernie Mac, died from complications of pneumonia at just 50 years old. His passing was a shock to fans who had watched him rise from Chicago's comedy clubs to international stardom. Bernie Mac wasn't just a comedian. He was a storyteller who could turn everyday struggles into laughter, and his unique blend of humor and honesty made him unforgettable. Born October 5, 1957 in Chicago, Illinois. Bernie grew up in a working-class family and faced hardships early in life. His mother died when he was just 16, leaving him to navigate adulthood on his own. Comedy became both an escape and a calling. Influenced by legends like Richard Pryor and Red Fox, Bernie started performing stand-up at clubs around Chicago, bringing a raw and fearless style that set him apart. His big break came in the early 1990s when he appeared on Def Comedy Jam, HBO's influential showcase for up-and-coming comedians. His set, delivered with trademark boldness, included the now famous line, "I ain't scared of you," instantly establishing him as a powerhouse in comedy. Audiences loved his unfiltered delivery, his ability to tell stories about family life, relationships, and black culture with a mix of love and biting truth. Bernie Mac's career skyrocketed from there. He appeared in films like House Party 3, 1994, Friday 1995, and later in The Players Club 1998. But it was the original Kings of Comedy 2000, alongside Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, and D.L. Hewley, that cemented his status as a comedy legend. Directed by Spike Lee, the concert film showcased Bernie's ability to command the stage with authority, timing, and authenticity. For many, he stole the show. Television brought him even closer to audiences. The Bernie Mac Show, 2001-2006, was a groundbreaking sitcom loosely based on his real life, in which he played a version of himself raising his sister's children. The show's blend of humor and heart earned critical acclaim, winning a Peabody Award and multiple NAACP Image Awards. Bernie's direct-to-camera monologues, where he spoke honestly to America, became iconic and showcased his ability to connect with viewers as if he were sitting in their living room. At the same time, Bernie built a strong film career. He played memorable roles in Ocean's 11 2001 and its sequels, where his comedic timing and charm shone even in ensemble casts. In Mr. 3000 2004, he carried a film as the lead, displaying both comedic and dramatic talent. His later roles in Guess Who 2005 and Transformers 2007 showed his versatility and mainstream appeal. Behind the laughter, Bernie faced serious health challenges. He was diagnosed with sarcoidosis, an inflammatory disease that affects multiple organs, primarily the lungs. Though he often downplayed the condition, it impacted his health for years. In 2008, he was hospitalized with pneumonia, and despite efforts to stabilize him, he passed away on August 9th. Fans were stunned. Bernie had been such a force of energy and joy that it was hard to imagine him gone. Tributes poured in immediately. Fellow comedians like Steve Harvey and Cedric the Entertainer mourned not just a colleague, but a brother. President Barack Obama even issued a statement honoring Bernie's legacy, calling him a man who made us all laugh and laugh hard. Bernie Mac's influence continues long after his death. He is remembered as one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time, a man who could make audiences laugh until they cried while also speaking truths that hit close to home. His humor was unapologetic, his delivery unique, and his heart undeniable. Though his life ended too soon, Bernie Mac's laughter still echoes. Through his comedy specials, films, and sitcom, he left behind a legacy of joy and honesty. He once said he wanted people to laugh at his funeral. In a way, they still do not out of disrespect, but because remembering Bernie Mac means remembering the joy he gave to the world. Gregory Tyree Boyce. On May 13, 2020, Hollywood was shaken when news broke that Gregory Tyree Boyce, best known for his role in the first Twilight film, had died alongside his girlfriend Natalie Adepoju in Las Vegas. He was only 30 years old. For fans of the blockbuster saga and those who followed his life afterward, the news was heartbreaking. A young man with talent, charisma, and potential, gone far too soon. Born December 5, 1989 in California, Gregory grew up in Los Angeles. From a young age, he had a natural flair for performing, but unlike many aspiring actors, he stumbled into the spotlight almost unexpectedly. His breakout came in 2008 when he was cast in the first installment of the Twilight saga. Though his role was brief, fans of the franchise will never forget him as Tyler Crowley, the high school student who nearly crashes his van into Bella Swan Kristen Stewart before Edward Cullen Robert Pattinson saves her. That scene became one of the most memorable moments of the entire film series. While Twilight was a global phenomenon, Gregory's acting career did not follow the same trajectory as some of his co-stars. Instead of pursuing fame relentlessly, he lived a quieter life, focusing on his family and personal ventures. Friends described him as down-to-earth and fiercely devoted to his daughter Alaya, who was the center of his world. Parenthood became his anchor, giving him a sense of responsibility and pride beyond Hollywood. In his later years, Gregory shifted toward entrepreneurship. He had a strong passion for food and dreamed of starting his own restaurant. At the time of his death, he was reportedly preparing to launch a new business venture in Las Vegas that combined his love of cooking and community. Those close to him believed this next chapter would have been a major success as he poured the same energy into business that he once gave to acting. But Gregory's life came to a tragic halt in May 2020. He and Natalie Adepoju were found dead in their apartment, with toxicology reports later revealing they had died from an accidental overdose of cocaine and fentanyl. The news was both devastating and sobering, a reminder of how addiction and drug-related deaths continue to claim lives across the country, even among young, promising individuals who seem to have so much ahead of them. Tributes poured in quickly from friends, fans, and family. His cousin posted a heartfelt message online describing Gregory as someone who always had a smile and who loved life despite its challenges. Many fans of the Twilight series expressed their sorrow, recalling how even his small role left an impression on them. It was proof that sometimes even brief moments on screen can leave lasting memories. For those closest to him, Gregory's death was not defined by Hollywood fame, but by the person he was: a loving father, a loyal friend, and a man determined to make something of his life beyond the glitz of acting. His story is bittersweet. He had tasted global recognition, but he sought something more meaningful and personal in the years that followed. Gregory Tyree Boyce's legacy is a reminder of both the fragility of life and the importance of remembering people not just for the roles they played, but for the dreams they held and the love they gave. Though his time on Earth was brief, he touched many lives, and his memory continues to live on through his daughter, his family, and the fans who will always recall the young man behind one of Twilight's most unforgettable scenes. Thomas McCall Ford. On October 12, 2016, Hollywood and fans of 1990s sitcoms lost a beloved figure when Thomas McCall Ford, best known for playing Thomas "Tommy" Strawn on the hit show Martin, passed away from a ruptured abdominal aneurysm at the age of 52. His death left fans shocked and heartbroken, as he was not just a talented actor, but also a mentor, motivational speaker, and role model who inspired countless lives beyond the television screen. Born September 5, 1964, in Los Angeles, California, Ford grew up with a passion for the arts. He pursued acting seriously, eventually earning a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from the University of Southern California. With a commanding presence, warm personality, and natural comedic timing, he became a familiar face on stage and screen during the late 1980s and early 1990s. Ford's breakthrough came in 1992 with Martin the sitcom starring Martin Lawrence. As Tommy Strawn, Ford played one of Martin's closest friends, a role that became iconic thanks to his deadpan humor and the long-running joke about nobody knowing what Tommy's job actually was. His chemistry with the rest of the cast, Tisha Campbell, Tichina Arnold, and Carl Anthony Payne II, helped make Martin one of the defining sitcoms of the 1990s. Fans tuned in not only for Martin Lawrence's antics, but also for Tommy's steady, lovable presence. But Ford was more than just a sitcom star. He also took on dramatic roles, appearing in shows like New York Undercover and films such as Harlem Nights 1989 and Class Act 1992. His versatility proved that he could transition between comedy and drama with ease, bringing depth to every character he portrayed. Beyond acting, Ford devoted much of his life to uplifting others. He became a motivational speaker and author, publishing books for children that emphasized self-esteem, respect, and responsibility. He often visited schools, churches, and community centers to talk about the importance of education and making positive life choices. To many, this work was just as significant as his acting career, showing his deep commitment to giving back. In his later years, Ford continued acting in films and stage productions while balancing his passion for community work. He directed plays, appeared in inspirational projects, and even worked on documentaries addressing social issues like bullying and violence. His career may not have always kept him in the mainstream spotlight, but his dedication to meaningful storytelling and mentorship never wavered. His death in 2016 came suddenly. Hospitalized in Atlanta for a ruptured abdominal aneurysm, he passed away surrounded by family and friends. The news stunned fans, many of whom had grown up watching him on Martin. Social media quickly filled with tributes, with Martin Lawrence calling him a great man and friend, and Tichina Arnold remembering him as a gentle giant. Ford's funeral brought together family, friends, and fans who celebrated not just his career, but his character. He was remembered as a man of faith, humor, and compassion, someone who genuinely cared about making a difference in the lives of others. Today, Thomas McCall Ford's legacy lives on in two powerful ways: through the timeless reruns of Martin, where audiences still laugh at his classic one-liners, and through the lives of the countless young people he inspired through his mentorship. He left behind a blueprint for how entertainers can use their platform not only to entertain but also to empower. Though his life was cut short, Ford's impact continues. He was proof that success isn't just measured by fame or fortune, but also by the love, respect, and inspiration one leaves behind. Thomas McCall Ford will forever be remembered as both a comedic treasure and a guiding light. Moses J. Mosley. On January 26, 2022, Hollywood was stunned by the sudden death of Moses J. Mosley, an actor and model who rose to fame for his role as one of Michonne's iconic pet zombies on AMC's The Walking Dead. He was only 31 years old. His body was discovered in Stockbridge, Georgia, and while the circumstances initially sparked suspicion, the medical examiner later ruled his death a suicide. For fans of the show and those who knew him personally, the loss was heartbreaking. Another reminder of how fragile life can be, even for those who appear strong on the outside. Born December 23, 1990, in Aiken, South Carolina, Moses grew up as a bright and charismatic young man. Early in life, he struggled with weight issues, but through determination and discipline, he transformed himself physically, losing over 150 pounds. This transformation opened the door to modeling fitness and eventually acting, showing the world that resilience could rewrite a person's story. Moses first gained attention when he was cast on The Walking Dead. Appearing in the show's third and fourth seasons, he played one of the chained, jawless walkers that followed Michonne Danai Gurira. Though he never spoke a line, his role became iconic. Fans immediately recognized the haunting imagery of Michonne flanked by her pet walkers, and Moses embraced the unique opportunity with professionalism and enthusiasm. His appearance helped cement one of the series' most memorable visuals. Beyond The Walking Dead, Moses also appeared in projects like Joyful Noise, 2012, Watchmen 2019, and Queen of the South. He modeled for major brands, graced magazine covers, and inspired many through his fitness journey. Unlike many who achieve sudden fame, Moses remained humble and approachable. Fans often remarked on his kindness at conventions where he signed autographs and took time to listen to every supporter who came to meet him. Tragically, Moses' life ended far too soon. When he went missing in January 2022, his family and friends grew worried, as it was unusual for him to be out of contact. Days later, his body was found in his car with a gunshot wound. While police initially treated the case as suspicious, investigations later concluded that his death was the result of suicide. For many fans, the news was devastating, not just because of the loss, but because it came so unexpectedly. The tributes that followed painted a picture of a man who was more than an actor. His agents and colleagues described him as gentle, dedicated, and always positive. The Walking Dead family, including AMC and his fellow cast members, honored him with public statements of grief and gratitude. Fans flooded social media with photos from conventions and heartfelt memories recalling how his smile and humility had left lasting impressions. Moses J. Mosley's story is one of transformation, resilience, and heartbreak. He proved that obstacles, whether physical, personal, or professional, could be overcome with determination. Yet his death underscores the silent battles many face, reminding us of the importance of mental health awareness. His legacy is bittersweet. He will forever be remembered as part of one of television's most iconic franchises, but also as a kind soul gone too soon. Though his time in the spotlight was brief, Moses left behind an enduring impact. For fans, he will always be the unforgettable figure walking alongside Michonne. For those who knew him, he will be remembered as a man who overcame struggles, embraced life, and gave inspiration to others until his final days. The lives and losses of these extraordinary black actors remind us how brilliance can shine, even in the face of struggle, and how quickly that light can be taken away. Their stories reveal triumph, pain, and legacies that continue to shape culture and inspire generations. But what matters most is how we choose to remember them as icons of talent, as cautionary tales, or as human beings who gave us their truth. Which perspective do you believe best honors their memory? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.